Welcome to the Rapport Report, where we watch and talk about every episode of the Colbert Report from 2005 to 2014. That's a lot of episodes. I'm Nathaniel,
And I'm Alex.
and Colbert's guest on this episode is Cokie Roberts.
Who, as I point out in the third episode, is the first guest so far that has died since the interview.
Yep.
And I noticed it does seem like he is having an okay gender balance, it seems. I don't think there's been a week without a woman, although the week before this, Monica Crowley was.
Yeah. Now on to the intro segment.
Yeah, in the intro he talks about, like, taking Veterans Day to the extreme is how he's
Yeah.
making it for younger people.
With some gnarly music along with it.
I imagine I feel like that was even pretty lame, even dated.
Oh, yeah. Was that ever cool, that music?
I think it was. I mean, honestly, like, one of the things is that there was one show that was trying to do a parody of these, like, sort of surfer guys that would try to do what be like Chip and Pepper's Cartoon Madness, and the parody of it was from Kyle Mooney's Saturday Morning All-Star Hits. It seemed like a joke, but looking at the real one, it actually really was that, like, dude, you gotta.
It really was like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they actually were surfers in real life, but, like, nobody had actually heard of them, so I don't think it actually.
Was that like the 80s?
It was in like the early. It was part of NBC's attempt to make an all new Saturday morning cartoon lineup that didn't last a season.
Oh, or some of the other line,
like it had like Yo Yogi, which is like Yogi Bear is like a kid, and all of his friends are kids, and they run a detective agency. And it had like Wish Kid with Macaulay Culkin, some other ones.
And it did not last.
Yeah, it didn't last.
Okay. Now on to the first segment of the Colbert episode.
So first it starts off with talking about how Paul McCartney is going to perform Good Day Sunshine live for the International Space Station on Saturday.
How did that work, really?
It seems like it was okay. I had heard of it before.
He wasn't on the space station.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah. Well, how did he do it live?
I mean, they just like
feed?
just like a video. I don't think it's that complicated.
Does the ISS have internet?
I think it does somewhat. I think I remember somebody editing Wikipedia from
the ISS.
And I know, like, I heard a bit ago about one astronaut having, like, the first criminal investigation to involve something that happened in space because there were, I think, allegations that she checked, like, her spouse's bank account when they were trying to get divorced or something.
In space?
Yeah.
Wow. Is there a, like, space detective? Is that a real job?
I don't think there is a... Maybe with the Space Force, it'll have to be, like, a space version of, like, JAG or NCIS or something.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
About space.
Then he also talks about Paul McCartney's newest hit, English Tea, which is a real song from his 2005 album.
Was it a hit?
No, I don't think it was even a single.
And
then on to the main topic, which is the oil price hearings, which we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
And then he says, it seems like they're concerned about, and I don't know what this means, profits are too high. And then it says, like, it's for Congress to get outraged and for the oil companies to act outraged about the outrage.
Was this before or, like, after the Enron?
This was pretty far after the Enron.
But would that have any effect on it?
I imagine that probably didn't help, but it's true. But I mean, gas prices were rising pretty dramatically in the 2000s.
Yeah. As bad as been recently?
I mean, that was a lot faster, but, like, just, like, it didn't stop.
Okay.
Or, I mean, it probably did stop, like, it didn't. It just continued.
What was the max price?
I mean, I think it was about to, like, $4 before the recession in 2008.
So the recession brought gas prices down?
Yeah.
Is that a common thing before recessions to have a high gas price?
No, I don't think so. But
it's not an indicator of...
I'm not sure.
That Ted's, they had a vote on swearing in.
They wanted to force them to go under oath, but Ted Stevens refused to force them to go under oath. Yeah. He was senator from Alaska, so I'm guessing he thought that it would be bad for...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, bad for Alaska.
Yeah.
Well, he was chair, too, right, he's president pro tempore, right? Of the Senate?
Maybe.
I think they
sense.
said so.
Yeah, he would probably have been the most
majority
senior member. Not majority leader, maybe the most, because he was in there for a while.
Yeah.
Eventually he did get in trouble, and he did wind up losing re-election to a Democrat, and then he died in a plane crash.
Who did that Democrat lose to? Was that in 2008?
Yeah, Ted Stevens lost 2008, and then the Democrat, Mark Begich, lost in 2014. To Dan Sullivan.
Dan Sullivan? Okay.
Yeah. Of course, Ted Stevens' other famous quote was they were having some kind of debate on internet regulation, and he said, I mean, these people are trying to say the internet is like a stream, and that's not right. It's more like a series of tubes. Yeah.
I guess that's accurate.
Colbert compares it to tobacco executives being forced to swear in. He said, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's like saying, like, who's the killer, me over here, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But of course, Glenn Colbert does say that he does want them to swear in because Americans have a right to expect that from their criminals.
Is there usually controversy when CEOs are asked to swear in?
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if they... I mean, I know, like, sometimes they plead the fifth, like Martin Shkreli pled the fifth, but I'm not sure if...
You're allowed to plead the fifth, even under oath?
I mean, pleading the fifth means means you don't say anything, so it
Okay.
doesn't really
You can do
matter.
it under oath. Okay. Why don't they all do that?
I
I
mean,
guess
you
to not look
can, but
guilty.
like it doesn't really
It makes them look guilty.
probably. I
Yeah.
mean, even then, there probably are reasons why.
You wouldn't do it.
Like
Was
if the opposition is still
yeah.
saying so.
Was Zuckerberg under
I
oath when
mean,
he?
I assume he. I feel like it's a thing. Like I know it seems like was looking up a little bit, and Dick Durbin from Illinois is still there. Criticized Ted Stevens for not requiring them to swear in, and then Ted Stevens got mad at him for suggesting that he do something about it.
Yeah. So it's like, is it usually controversy?
I don't think so. I don't remember
Usually
this.
it's like unanimous.
Yeah, but then Colbert talks about how he swears into the show every day.
And they do actually run a clip of him swearing in before the show in
Yeah,
front of the live audience. So
so I assume he did it for. I wonder if they were wondering why did they just do that? What?
yeah, or maybe if
Yeah,
they weren't there before, they thought that's what he did every
yeah.
day.
And so he was swearing to bring the truth.
Yeah,
And then he says, "So help me God," and then he points to specifically Jesus, the Catholic, and the
Catholic
Holy
Church.
Catholic Church.
Yeah, which he also
Yeah.
specified. Was it that an actual like creed for the Catholic Church to swear in specific like the of the Apostle Peter?
I'm not sure. I imagine part of it is derived from the Nicene Creed, I think, but I don't think
Okay.
that any. I'm not sure if they have a.
No, I assume that was a real like author, like a real pastor,
I'm not
or
sure.
not pastor, but like Catholic
I mean, it could have been. I'm not
officiant.
sure.
I mean, so I guess technically, if he lies on this episode, it's
Maybe.
lying under oath. Is there any difference to lying under oath in front of Congress versus not under oath?
I mean, I don't think one of them is a crime, but
Because but it'd be perjury both ways, right?
no, I mean, like if it wasn't under oath, I don't think it. Like,
And
what
then
would
it's
be the
not
point of making them swear an oath if it?
okay. So then they can just lie.
I think so. I
So
mean, it
what's the
seems
point?
like people did accuse the oil company people of doing that
So
because
what's the point of not doing something under oath?
I don't
Like,
know.
how can you trust the information?
I mean, that's why they thought that they should have.
Yeah, but like, what are the reasons for it?
I feel like
Like, what? How do you justify not under oath?
I forget what. I'm not sure how Ted Stevens justified it. We could move on. I feel like I don't want.
Yeah,
And so it has like a hand motion for building trust,
yeah.
and then it says,
It's one fist in front of the
"Yeah,
other
makes
repeatedly.
sense." But then at the end, he says he delivers the real whammy, which is, "Well, I mean, oil companies owe us that much to swear, and we are fighting a war for them after all."
Yeah. Now the thing is, there really isn't that much oil in Iraq,
I
right?
don't think there is that much. I mean, it does feel like they did kind of exaggerate how much
Like
that.
the oil's really in Kuwait, right?
I mean, there's probably more. I mean,
Yeah,
like Saddam wouldn't have wanted to invade it if there wasn't
yeah.
more oil.
But it's like not like if the U.S. wanted to fight a war for oil, it probably wouldn't pick Iraq.
Maybe. I mean, it seems like I think like some oil companies had like already been drawing up plans on oil in Iraq even
Mm.
before they declared war. But
Yeah, but I feel generally though the oil companies probably wouldn't want a war. That would probably be the worst thing
yeah, I
for
mean it
them.
did. But I mean, it did drive prices up, which might have been good for them, but it
Yeah.
also might not have been. And
Well,
so,
anyway, next up is the word armistice.
as I wrote the word, which
Yeah.
so, as usual, he does have a little bit of segment before the word, and he says, "Those who forget history are determined to repeat it with tragic consequences." And case in point, The Longest Yard, which had been remade in May 2005 with Adam Sandler.
Oh, so it was remade just after.
So not that long
Yeah.
before. So that's why it's a fresh example of a
Yeah.
weird.
Was either one well received?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like the Adam Sandler one was that well received. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he'd been doing other remakes, like he also did one with Mr. Deeds
So how long has Adam Sandler been doing like solo movies?
for a while.
Like 90s?
Yeah,
Still doing them, so
yeah.
guess it works.
He does the thing. He says, "This week in history, November 7th to the 13th." I know. I thought that what he was doing was he was going to make a joke where he was covering the previous week
2005.
in 2005, and you wondered if it was like a whole new segment because of how
Yeah,
fancy the graphic was.
it
Maybe
was very fancy graphic.
Big's back, but I'm not sure. Well, funny thing is, when I was looking at trying to look up the segment again, I actually did find somebody that did a whole like analysis of it on some website. It was pretty basic, but it's kind of interesting that it
Yeah.
existed. He says that during this week they have Stop a War Fever. And he lists the wars that ended, but it seems like even by what's obviously supposed to be a stretch, I feel like Colbert was stretching it here.
Yeah, there weren't that many wars that ended.
Like the first one is the Anglo-Dutch War, and he talked. It would specifically, I think, the third Anglo-Dutch War is the one he's talking about.
Yeah.
That is indeed, as I suspected at the time, the one where they got New York, but it didn't actually end in November. He mentions the Treaty of Westminster in 1674, but that was February through March is when that was negotiated.
So really, Colbert's being a liar here.
It does seem like they did have like an extended timetable for fighting ending, given how far away it was. But even that was in October.
Yeah.
It seems like probably what he's referring to is the fact that New York officially came under British control on November 10th
Ah.
when Edmund Andros, the later hated governor of New England, was sworn
Yeah.
in. So
What was he hated? Like all of New England?
I think that was like James II's era. Like he tried to consolidate all of New England under one government, and of course because he was Catholic, it didn't go over that well with the Puritans.
I
And
doubt anybody trying to consolidate New England would go too well. They're not very like consolidate people. Was Andros the namesake of like the island of the Bahamas?
probably I wouldn't be surprised, or at least one of his family members.
Yeah, it's funny because Andros kind of sounds like a Dutch name.
It might
Even.
be part. And there were some Dutch Anglo people, like I mean George Vancouver
Yeah,
was. Then
and
he talks about Napoleon ending the French Revolution with the coup of the 18th Brumaire. He uses the French name on the show, the French word for 18 on the show,
yeah.
which was on November 9th, 1799.
Was Brumaire one of the like
But
French
yeah, it was one of
months?
the revolutionary
How many
months.
months did they have?
I forget.
12. Like
I
they
think
had
it might
only.
have been like one of the ones where it was like 13 months in certain years to make up for the.
Would people who were not revolutionaries
I'm not sure.
use those months?
And then Jack the Ripper, whose last murder was on November 9th. But then it
Mm.
shows because they wanted merging them into the same graphic, so it shows Jack the Ripper attacking Napoleon.
Famously historic occurrence.
Yeah. Also, he's wearing like a hunting cap, which I guess could
Yeah.
have just kind of make him look like Sherlock Holmes, which
Oh,
would have been confusing. Any Sherlock Holmes takes on Jack the Ripper story.
yeah. Maybe that's part of the surprise that everybody thinks that Sherlock Holmes is really Jack.
I do remember seeing an ad on the Buzz Time Trivia Playbakers for somebody's book where they asserted that Arthur Conan Doyle was Jack the Ripper.
Really?
There are a lot of things. I know one person theorized that Lewis Carroll was Jack the Ripper because they took like a whole page worth of Alice in Wonderland and anagrammed it to be a confession from Jack the Ripper.
Ah.
I think just to prove how absurd that was, somebody took the same thing and anagrammed it to be a confession from the guy that discovered that, confessing to having killed OJ's wife and Ron Goldman and things like that.
So, like, how do we know that was the last Jack the Ripper murder? Because, like,
I mean, it's the last one that it seems like everybody agrees was his.
okay, but he might have done other ones.
I guess.
Yeah.
But of course, I imagine by the end there were probably some people that wanted to do it like Jack the Ripper to try to.
And then apparently this is also the week of the last Revolutionary Battle.
But that's hard to say because I looked it up and it seems like what they're probably referring to is that in 1782, that week, George Rogers Clark burned some Shawnee villages. So maybe it was like the last action under like the Continental Army in the Revolutionary era, but I doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think you could really count. And he said it was to stop Mad King George's insane plan to turn America into a hobby horse.
How early did King George gain the Mad title?
I think maybe like the 1790s ish, but I'm not sure.
So it was after the Revolution.
I think it was after the Revolution
Okay.
because I don't think it came.
Yeah, and then of course the actual important armistice that week, which is World War One.
Yeah, armistice. He says not to be confused with Armostness, like Tony Armas Jr., the pitcher for the Nationals.
Yeah, who I forgot to do research on.
I did. It was his
Okay.
pitcher from 1999 2008. So he started was with the Expos at first.
Not a Hall of Famer, I assume.
I don't think so. It seems like he might have. It seems like his father was a pretty good hitter in 1976, 1989, but I don't think.
Yeah.
I noticed there's been like a fair amount of things about obscure baseball players, so I'm going to guess that one of the writers must like baseball
or sports in general, especially with the like Torello and
yeah.
It's funny that like Tony. I think that's almost. It's not even a good pun.
It's not. I feel like maybe nowadays they do like Ana de Armas or something. I mean,
yeah, I think it was just. I don't think Tony Armas Jr. was very famous. At the time.
Yeah, I don't think so.
This is kind of a funny stretch.
Then he talks about World War One. He says Doughboys. He shows a picture of Poppin' Fresh, the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, that's the Doughboy's name.
Yeah,
Poppin' Fresh.
Yeah, it is Poppin' Fresh.
But neither of those are real names.
I don't know.
There's Poppin's not a first name.
Well, it could be.
I guess it's the first name of Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah.
His last name's not Pillsbury?
Maybe. I don't know.
Is it not Poppin' Fresh Pillsbury? Like,
I'm not sure.
It's not like a double barrel.
Then he talks about how it was Armistice Day and then it was renamed to Veterans Day in 1954, which Colbert seemed to hint was because of the Cold War, making it not about the end of a war. Yeah. And the bullet point is Ike like first strike. But it seems like it might have just been to make sure that World War II veterans could be celebrated.
Because then, like, it wouldn't be Armistice.
Yeah. I think that was kind of a similar thing in the other countries, like where they celebrate it, like Canada and the UK.
Yeah, they celebrate Veterans Day or Armistice Day.
It's called Remembrance Day there,
Remembrance Day there.
It's interesting that, like, they do follow it more, probably just because more of them fought in World War One.
Then too.
Like, seems like they still have the poppy as the main symbol for Remembrance Day over there. I mean, Flanders Field was written by a Canadian, so.
Yep.
Which, as the word said earlier, I think that's in Belgium.
Which Canadian?
His name was John McCrae.
John McCrae.
So it seems like every, like, Canadian kid in school, they read Flanders Field. And then it says Veterans Day, it's the most important day to remember our Army, other than Armed Forces Day and Memorial Day. Is what it said.
When's Armed Forces Day? I
It
don't
says
think.
third Saturday in May,
Mm,
so pretty close to Memorial Day. But the thing is, it is true that people do mix up the days a lot. Like, people do often memorialize veterans that are still alive on Memorial Day, which
you
isn't
can't
how
do.
it's supposed to work. It's interesting they do get things after the war, like Memorial Day was after the Civil War,
Yeah,
Armistice Day is after World War One. It seems like they did sort of make Victory Day a holiday after World War Two, but it seemed like they were kind of uncomfortable with it, I guess.
yeah,
Because I guess like they kind of thought like celebrating dropping the atomic bomb made it worse.
yeah.
Although Rhode Island still celebrates it,
Is Armed Forces Day about
I assume it's people that are still in the armed
Yeah.
forces.
When was that created? Like Vietnam or?
I wouldn't be surprised, but it says it's our part to serve the country on Veterans Day, and the bullet point is flag on cargo shopping. And
Mhm.
then saying that as Vietnam and Korea were fading away, it was becoming more confusing. The bullet point is which war at Hawkeye? Hawkeye is the character on MASH, which is in
Okay.
the Korean War,
Yeah.
but it was aired during the Vietnam War, so
It's commentary on it, right?
probably, yeah. He compares the things you do on the other days in fall. You travel on Labor Day, you trick or treat on Halloween. There's just a picture of a kid dressed as Stephen Colbert.
Were there any Colbert costumes prior to like at this point
I'm not sure.
that Halloween?
I wouldn't be surprised if actually one of the people they knew had a kid that dressed up as Colbert, and they
Yeah.
asked him, and they sent the photo to him. And they said Thanksgiving is a time to see your family. Bullet point is it's a good time to come out as gay. And he says, like, many of us just see Veterans Day as an excuse to rake the leaves, honor our fallen leaves. We did
Yeah.
rake some leaves earlier
We did.
today.
It's not
It's
Veterans
not
Day.
Veterans Day yet. They said we are getting closer to the time that
Veterans
it's.
Day.
We
So
could make this an everyday thing, but I don't think that'll work.
no.
Then he said it's just as relevant as Cabbage Day. Seems like there is a Cabbage Day on February 17th, but I don't know if.
But you don't get off for Cabbage Day.
No, you don't. Colbert then compliments President Bush for saving Veterans Day and making new veterans.
Yeah.
Calls the war is the Veterans Accumulation Program. No 18 to 26-year-olds left behind.
This is maybe like the most biting anti-Bush thing.
Baby. I mean, it is funny. Maybe it's in part funniest just because it's not even based on any kind of news.
No, he just made it up.
I mean, the Rosa Parks one has kind of felt like this too, where it was just him like trying to offend people. It seemed like, but this is. And then he says, "You can't just send them on multiple tours of duty. That's not making new veterans. It's re-veteraning trademark.
It's not efficient."
Yeah. So he says they should end this war, and then once they've gotten new people to sign up, start a new war to create more veterans. As bullet point says, Iran looks promising.
But as we have discussed in previous episodes, it probably would not be promising.
Probably not. And now on to the interview with Cokie Roberts, who had worked for many years.
Yeah. Cokie Roberts currently worked for NPR at the time.
At the time, that's what it said. As he said, she's worked for ABC, CBS, PBS, NPR. I'll find out what all those letters mean.
How many letters are there total across all the news stations? Like, how much of the alphabet can you get?
Oh, like
probably less than half, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially because a lot of them overlap.
No Q's, no.
Yeah.
I mean, Fox does a lot of heavy lifting. I don't think any of those letters are in the other ones.
Yeah. The first question is about, it says, you and your husband wrote a book about your happy marriage. It said, well, it's just about our marriage. And then it says, like, well, that's disappointing because my brother Tommy has a crush on you. Colbert actually does have a brother Tommy. It's his this is parents' sixth kid out of 11.
Jeez, it's
like Colbert is the youngest one.
Out of 11?
Yeah.
How do you, get the sunlight, you know?
Yeah. And he says, how do you tell a happy marriage? And then Colbert suggests nobody drinks. And then she says, that would probably be an unhappy marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Her suggestion is how many bite marks on your tongue.
Yeah.
And then Colbert asks about her growing up in a political family. I mean, I didn't know this, but her father was Hale Boggs, who was a prominent representative from Louisiana.
Was Hale Boggs, I assume, real name Cokie?
No.
Not Roberts.
No, Hale Boggs. I mean, Rob Boggs is Cokie Roberts' maiden name. It's in that long.
It's made. That's right.
Later, she goes into how long her full name is, which I guess explains why.
Yeah.
She was succeeded by his wife Lindy, who had pretty much the same name as Cokie Roberts, but slightly shorter. Mm-hmm. And so I guess she also
is Lindy also short for like Caroline, or
it's like something I don't know.
Which is where Cokie comes from.
And of course, Hale Boggs died in a plane crash in Alaska, just like Ted Stevens. And of course, it does make you realize. I mean, Colbert's father also died in a plane crash, so I guess maybe if the interview had gone differently, that could have come up.
Yeah. Was it in Alaska?
No, it wasn't in Alaska.
I know someone.
It was in North Carolina.
I know one place I'm not flying.
She asked him, which among the DC people you got to know, LBJ and Tip O'Neill, which of them got your nose the best?
I think it was also like Hubert Humphrey, too.
Yeah, Hubert Humphrey was there. She says that Sam Rayburn showed up the most.
Yeah.
She even explained to all those who weren't around that he was Speaker of the House.
So he was old even
I
2005,
guess,
and
yeah.
we're
I think
18
it
years
was like
later.
in the
So
60s and 70s he was
yeah,
Speaker. And then it says he was there to bury Charlie Chicken after the family dog ate him.
yeah. Was Sam Rayburn a minister or
I don't know. I don't think so. He was from Texas. But.
ah?
So, well, he said it was hard though because Rayburn was a Baptist, but we wanted a Catholic funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
she's also a Catholic from
like,
South Carolina,
no, I mean she's from Hale-Bog's from Louisiana,
Louisiana.
so
They're both Southern Catholics, which is
yeah. Although
interesting.
Louisiana is the place in the South where it wouldn't be odd to be a Catholic,
Yeah.
so. And so, of course, she bemoaned the state of politics in D.C. now, saying it went from nasty to mega nasty. They said we used to disagree, but you could do it without being disagreeable. I mean, that does seem like it was true, though. Like, even the senators that were different politically did seem to get along generally, so.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because that's kind of talked about as like nowadays as like a modern issue, but it seems like it's been discussed as a
Yeah, I'm
problem
sure they
in
have.
Washington since like the early 2000s. Was it Iraq that made it get nasty?
I don't think it was anything particularly that I think it would just maybe you could blame like Newt Gingrich, I guess, just for shaking up the
Or like news cycle?
maybe, yeah.
But
Or maybe you could blame C-SPAN. I don't know.
yeah.
There's probably you could blame
Yeah.
anything.
Going back to like Louisiana Catholics, is Mike Johnson Catholic?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't
But
know.
he's like from Shreveport,
Yeah,
so
maybe not.
less Catholic. I don't know though,
Yeah.
really.
Note for Benedict, Mike Johnson is not a Catholic. He was in fact a fairly important member of the Southern Baptist Convention. So then he talks about how like, well, it did used to be worse. Like we're not having anybody caning people.
Yeah.
But they said, I mean, but that led to a civil war, and like,
Don't want a civil war.
and so Colbert asks her point blank, what will cause the next civil war? He says, we're not going to have another civil war, and then she suggests maybe evolution. It is kind of funny, just how important I guess it was at the time.
Yeah, I thought you said revolution.
No, but I mean, it doesn't make sense with the next line, which
Okay.
is that Colbert says, wouldn't it be Darwinian that people that win get to pass the things on to the next generation?
Yeah, and then the people in the audience cheer.
Says, well, I guess you think you're getting breed after this.
Yeah.
So Cokie Roberts is saying that they would call it Sodom on the Potomac, crumb bumps and fat cats. Congress used to do things together. And she talked about how Congress used to go to like events together, or not anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of part of that is DC becoming a bigger city too, so there's more people there that have nothing to do.
I know, like especially during the 19th century, DC was like only like 40,000 people.
Yeah.
And probably most of those were associated with the government.
Yeah, DC was kind of.
And that's why like the petticoat affair and such happens.
Yeah. She says that the main way to change them is to defeat them, but gerrymandering makes that hard.
Yep.
That's just where that was also. And of course, she says you're disappointed that in California and Ohio the ballot measures failed.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones that Arnold pushed for. I mean, eventually they did sort of succeed, although the Ohio one isn't that strong.
But California has an independent commission now, so
yeah. It seems like Ohio sort of does, but the state legislature can revert it, but it only lasts for one redistricting cycle or something.
So it's like a weird thing.
Yeah.
And her full
name is Mary Martha Corrine Robinson Claiborne Boggs Roberts.
Yeah.
And it seems like her mother's name was pretty much the same, but without like the Martha.
And they got Cokie because her brother couldn't pronounce Corrine.
Yeah. And of course, Colbert says Corinne, which is how it's usually pronounced, I'm pretty sure. So, and of course, she makes fun of him for. And so, the next segment,
in the box or the inbox.
The inbox, which has had before and which does sort of come back. And so the first one is Ann M. from Richmond. I feel like they might have used that name in the Greg Barrett Collins segment too. There's somebody from Richmond there.
Oh, maybe they got lazy.
Yeah, was about to argue with Colbert about his softwood ranting, which you might remember from previous episodes. But then Colbert cuts her off immediately, claiming that because of free speech, you can't get mad at him.
I'm gonna be disappointed when the softwood conflict with Canada stops being a recurring joke.
Then somebody else writes in saying that he's mad that he called Scooter Libby a treasonous thug, a martyr. But then Colbert says he's not a martyr. And he says he's just a fall guy until he's convicted. Yeah. Then it shows a picture of Scooter Libby on crutches. Apparently he actually had broken his foot right before the indictment. So
was it a sympathy tactic?
I'm not sure. I mean, of course it is like the common thing is that if there's any injury, they'll have to like go in with the max, basically use like soccer injury logic to
get it.
Yeah.
Yes. But how did Scooter Libby, was he injured for the whole?
I doubt it. But yeah, they found that picture from.
Then somebody asked Colbert what they should have for breakfast.
So he says, for 6 days you can eat anything, but then on Sundays you should eat bran because it's nature's broom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Lee X from San Francisco writes in because he's mad about Ching Chong Ding Dong.
Refer to
which was last week. He did that thing where he showed like the leaked footage of him doing a racist Chinese impersonation. Yeah. And he just plays the whole clip from the
I guess they need to fill time.
I mean, it isn't they do have 2 whole segments after this, so.
Yep.
It is weird because it seemed like they put the interview at the end, but now in this one they're It's more in the middle. But then
Who
he
knows?
says, but then it seems like and maybe something that does seem a little bit odd for Colbert. He does seem to actually, he says, words are chief, so I'm actually going to do something. I'm going to turn it over to a network in Osaka. Then it
Yeah.
shows a footage of what they see like you would think would be a Japanese game show of like monitor wizards running to eat meat off of girls' heads. And it
Yeah.
seems like the clip had just went viral on November 7th for an article, but it explains it's not quite a game show. They're members of the girl group Morning Musume.
So it's like one of
Yeah.
the group things.
Yeah, and it seems like the Morning Musume is like the rotating members have been around for so long. I found that when it started, one of the members was older than her mom was, but now one of the members is younger than you are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Also, fun fact is one of the current members was born the day after this episode. So
wow. That's really it's just been around forever.
yeah, they just
How
graduate.
much money do they make?
I don't
It
know.
must be profitable.
I mean, it's probably profitable for
Yeah.
the
So
manager,
do they still make
but
a TV show?
I mean, I'm sure they have like on and off types of things. But
So it's like they have a TV show. They make
I assume that
music.
was like an interview type thing where
Yeah.
they just
Throw monitor lizards at them.
yeah.
Why can't more interviews be like that?
Yeah, and so finally,
The Colbert Code.
yeah, when I saw one of these segments back when it first aired in 2008, so I got really into them. So I actually did watch all of these as a kid,
All of
the Colbert Code ones.
yeah.
And I remember looking up somebody online tried to make up their own, and one of the connections I remember being Babe Ruth, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and
Yeah.
ending with bird flu, but I remember nothing else.
So it was still at the time when the bird flu was a big deal.
I think it might have been from like the 2005 if they were bringing up a
Oh.
bird. So like from, and so he's saying that I'm going to solve the mysteries of the world. And I think it was interesting that he doesn't list any like fake mysteries. They're all like actual.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to look up when the Da Vinci Code came out.
To see how recent this was for this book.
So the film hadn't come out yet, but the book was 2003.
So I guess it's like the movie had come out as kind of a deeper cut almost.
I'm not sure. I mean, it was probably a very big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was still a little bit of a deep
It was
cut.
funny how people did make fun of the name Da Vinci Code because most academics don't call him Da Vinci on their own because he would have been mostly referred to as Leonardo.
Well, yeah, but like
Yeah. Now I'm wondering, like, could there have been a world where his name in English is usually Leonard da Vinci?
yeah. I mean, the Da Vinci Code is not necessarily an academic book, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't insist on the Leonardo
Yeah.
code.
I know that one person on r/bad history that was reviewing it called it the of Exeter Code because that's where Dan Brown is from.
Yeah.
He always starts off by asking who killed JFK.
That's always the question.
That's always the first question, and this time he gets to Jackie Kennedy.
Ah.
And I know you were comparing it to how Adam West's Batman would solve the Riddler's riddles.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they were this convoluted word association, even if they were things that you would never figure out. Like,
Well, yeah.
yeah, maybe it's sort of like the Jeff Goldblum parody, Jeff Goldblum's Independence Day character parody on South Park, where he has like the really weird.
Yeah.
And so the next question he asks is, will Karl Rove be indicted? It seems like the one thing that I didn't.
Didn't we have the 8-ball last episode? We
forget.
had a magic 8-ball.
I think so.
So this is, I guess, a slightly more advanced
Yeah.
version of that.
Yeah. The only person that I didn't remember was it talks about Gerald McCraney from Major Dad is one of the links. Because Patrick Fitzgerald, Gerald.
Yeah,
See,
this
like,
one repeats a lot.
Major Dad came out was on there from 1989 to 1983. It is about a dad who is a major in the Marines. So
That's it?
yeah.
Wow.
Seems like General McCraney is still alive. It seems like he was in House of Cards, and
So this connection just keeps going for a
then
while.
he starts going in circles.
Yeah.
But then eventually
Major Dad is a key part of the circle.
it was Major Dad, Major Cord, Chick on Cordon Bleu. Then he gets out of it to cholesterol, heart failure. And then he ends with Red Rover, send Karl Rove over, which means that
he will not be cleared.
Yeah. The thing is, he also often gets really close. Like he says, Valerie blame game, children's games, Red Rover is how he gets there. I know when he does it for Obama, he keeps doing things that are really leading questions for McCain, but keeps getting to like, I think the next president is a maverick. And like, I think the next, let's go with POW, power, people power, Democrats.
So it keeps going. So
yeah, and then he says compelling evidence that Rove is toast, but Rove was not indicted. So.
Yeah, it's.
And then his next prediction is about
right.
whether Samuel Alito would be confirmed, and he rhymes it with Jared Leto. I'm pretty sure it's always pronounced Jared Leto. I'm not sure. I'm guessing they probably just thought they wanted to stretch it for.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to remember.
Yeah. And then he goes to My So-Called Life, which is a very short-lived stow, but it did help make him and Claire Danes stars, apparently.
Okay, so that's how he knows it. And
the one rhyme that I wrote down that I found interesting enough to jot down quickly was he goes from Willie Mays to corn. And then eventually gets to James Bond, Doctor No, Samuel Alito will not be confirmed, which is also wrong. So he
Yeah.
goes like 0 for 2
Zero.
here.
I think we should keep a track record on all
Yeah.
the Colbert codes.
Yeah, I think the other ones are a bit more
Yeah.
accurate. Like when he does the Oscars, he pretty much always gets it right. But
Yeah.
and of course the Obama one got it right.
Yeah.
So
So we can write it down 0 for 2 for now.
yeah, and then he says this makes me think about how good of a justice Sean Connery would be.
Yeah.
This is sleep tight if you can't stay loose. So says this episode we kind of rambled a bit and
Yeah.
were a
Well, we
bit
can cut
sick,
it back.
but and so signing off.
Signing off.